Why some Muslims still eat pork. The topic of Muslims consuming pork can be quite surprising, given the clear prohibitions in Islamic teachings. However, understanding why some Muslims still eat pork requires a nuanced exploration of various factors, including cultural influences, historical contexts, personal beliefs, socioeconomic conditions, and modern interpretations of religious laws. By diving into these aspects, we can gain a comprehensive understanding of this complex issue. Islamic dietary laws are derived from the Quran and Hadith, which clearly outline what is permissible, halal, and what is forbidden, haram, for Muslims. Pork is explicitly mentioned in the Quran as haram, meaning it is strictly prohibited for consumption. This prohibition is based on verses such as Surah Al-Baqarah 2:173, Surah Al-Ma'idah 5.3, Surah Al-An'am 6:145, and Surah An-Nahl 16:115, which collectively declare pork impure and not suitable for consumption by Muslims. The Hadith, which are the sayings and actions of Prophet Muhammad, further reinforce this prohibition, emphasizing that pork is unclean and should be avoided. The prohibition of pork in Islam is not just a dietary restriction, but a significant aspect of religious identity and obedience to God's commandments. For many Muslims, adhering to these dietary laws is a way to demonstrate their faith and commitment to Islamic principles. The consumption of pork is often seen as a major violation of these principles, making the topic of Muslims eating pork particularly sensitive and complex. Cultural and regional influences play a crucial role in shaping the dietary practices of Muslim communities around the world. The Muslim world is incredibly diverse, with cultures and traditions varying significantly from one region to another. In some areas, the influence of non-Muslim majority cultures can lead to variations in adherence to Islamic dietary laws. For instance, in regions where pork is a staple food for the majority population, Muslim minorities might face challenges in maintaining their dietary restrictions. This can lead to instances where some Muslims, especially those living in mixed cultural settings, might consume pork, either out of necessity or due to cultural assimilation. Moreover, historical interactions between Muslim and non-Muslim communities have also influenced dietary practices. Throughout history, Muslim communities have often lived alongside non-Muslim populations, leading to cultural exchanges and adaptations. During periods of colonization or significant migration, Muslims might have adopted certain dietary habits from the surrounding non-Muslim cultures. This historical context is essential in understanding how some Muslims might have come to include pork in their diet, either temporarily or as a part of their cultural adaptation. Personal choices and beliefs are another critical factor in this discussion. While the majority of Muslims strictly avoid pork, individual interpretations of religious texts can vary. Some Muslims might interpret the dietary laws more leniently, believing that personal circumstances and intentions play a role in determining what is permissible. For example, a Muslim living in a non-Muslim majority country might prioritize convenience and availability of food over strict adherence to dietary laws, especially if halal options are limited. Personal stories of Muslims who choose to eat pork often highlight a range of reasons, including personal preferences, health considerations, and individual interpretations of religious teachings. Additionally, the influence of modernist and liberal interpretations of Islamic teachings cannot be overlooked. In recent times, there has been a growing trend among some Muslim scholars and individuals to reevaluate traditional interpretations of Islamic laws. These modern interpretations might argue for a more contextual understanding of the Quran and Hadith, taking into account the changing social and cultural landscapes. This can lead to more flexible approaches to dietary laws, including the consumption of pork in specific situations. The debate among scholars on this topic highlights the dynamic nature of Islamic jurisprudence and the ongoing efforts to reconcile religious teachings with contemporary realities. Socioeconomic factors also play a significant role in dietary choices. In many cases, poverty and limited access to food can lead to compromises in dietary adherence. For Muslims living in economically disadvantaged situations, the priority might be to ensure sufficient nutrition and sustenance for their families, even if it means consuming pork. In non-Muslim majority countries, access to halal food can be particularly challenging and expensive. This economic pressure can force some Muslims to make dietary compromises, including the consumption of non-halal meat such as pork. Health and dietary preferences further complicate this issue. Some Muslims might choose to eat pork due to specific health reasons or dietary needs. For instance, certain medical conditions might require a diet that includes a broader range of protein sources, including pork. In such cases, individual health and well-being might take precedence over strict adherence to dietary laws. This highlights the complex interplay between religious guidelines, personal health, and practical considerations in everyday life. Religious flexibility and modern interpretations are critical in understanding the nuances of Islamic dietary laws and the reasons why some Muslims might consume pork. Islam, like many other major religions, is not a monolithic entity, but a diverse faith with a wide range of interpretations and practices. Over the centuries, Islamic jurisprudence has developed various schools of thought, each with its own methodologies and conclusions about religious texts. This diversity extends to how dietary laws are understood and implemented. In recent decades, there has been a significant shift towards more liberal and modernist interpretations of Islamic teachings. This movement is partly driven by the challenges Muslims face in a globalized world where they interact with different cultures and lifestyles. Modernist scholars argue that the core principles of Islam, justice, compassion, and the pursuit of well-being, should guide the interpretation of religious laws. They advocate for a contextual approach to the Quran and Hadith, suggesting that certain prohibitions might be re-evaluated in light of contemporary circumstances. This re-evaluation has led to debates among scholars about the flexibility of dietary laws. For example, some modernist scholars propose that the prohibition of pork, like other dietary laws, was meant to protect the health and well-being of believers in the context of 7th century Arabia. They argue that in modern times, with advancements in food safety and health standards, the rationale behind such prohibitions might be reconsidered. This perspective does not necessarily call for a blanket acceptance of pork consumption, but highlights the need for a nuanced understanding of religious texts. Another factor contributing to the diversity of interpretations is the lived experience of Muslims in different cultural and social contexts. For instance, Muslims in Western countries often face unique challenges in maintaining strict adherence to halal dietary laws. The availability of halal food, the social dynamics of eating with non-Muslim friends and colleagues, and the pressures of integration can all influence dietary choices. In these contexts, some Muslims might adopt a more flexible approach to their diet, including the occasional consumption of pork. This flexibility can also be seen in the practice of darura or necessity, which allows Muslims to consume prohibited items in situations where no halal alternatives are available. This principle is rooted in the Quran and Hadith, emphasizing that the preservation of life and health takes precedence over dietary restrictions. While darura is typically applied in extreme circumstances, such as famine or life-threatening situations, its broader application in modern contexts is a subject of debate among scholars. Some argue that living in a non-Muslim majority country with limited access to halal food can be considered a form of necessity, thereby justifying occasional deviations from dietary laws. Integration and assimilation play a crucial role in shaping the dietary practices of Muslim immigrants in Western countries. The process of adapting to a new cultural environment often involves a delicate balance between maintaining one's religious and cultural identity and integrating into the broader society. For many Muslim immigrants, food is a significant aspect of this balance. In Western countries, the food culture is diverse, and social interactions often revolve around shared meals. For Muslim immigrants, participating in these social rituals can be challenging when dietary restrictions are involved. The availability of halal food in restaurants and public spaces is not always guaranteed, and the social pressure to fit in can lead to compromises. For example, a Muslim might choose to eat non-halal meat or even pork in social settings to avoid standing out or offending their hosts. This form of dietary assimilation can be seen as a pragmatic approach to integration, prioritizing social harmony and acceptance over strict adherence to dietary laws. The experiences of Muslim immigrants also vary significantly based on their countries of origin, the level of religious observance, and their personal circumstances. For some, the desire to maintain a strong religious identity might lead to strict adherence to halal dietary laws, regardless of the challenges. For others, especially younger generations growing up in Western countries, the influence of peers and the desire to assimilate might result in a more relaxed approach to dietary restrictions. The phenomenon of assimilation can also be observed in the second and third generations of Muslim immigrants. These individuals often navigate a complex identity landscape, balancing their heritage with the cultural norms of their country of residence. This can lead to a reinterpretation of religious practices, including dietary laws. Some might adopt a more liberal understanding of their faith, allowing for greater flexibility in their diet, while others might reaffirm their commitment to traditional practices as a way to connect with their roots. Furthermore, the availability and accessibility of halal food in Western countries have improved significantly in recent years, thanks to the growing Muslim population and increased demand for halal products. However, challenges remain, especially in smaller towns and rural areas where halal options are limited. In such environments, the pressure to assimilate can be stronger, and the likelihood of dietary compromise is higher. Health and dietary preferences can significantly influence the decisions of some Muslims to consume pork, despite its prohibition in Islamic dietary laws. In today's health-conscious world, dietary choices are often dictated by a variety of factors, including nutritional needs, medical conditions, and personal health goals. For some Muslims, these health considerations may override religious dietary restrictions, leading to the consumption of pork or other non-halal foods. One aspect to consider is the evolving understanding of nutrition and health. Modern nutritional science has highlighted the importance of a balanced diet that includes a variety of protein sources. Pork, being a rich source of protein, vitamins and minerals such as thiamine, vitamin B6 and phosphorus, can be seen as a beneficial component of a diet for those who may have specific nutritional deficiencies. For instance, individuals with certain health conditions that require a high-protein diet might find pork to be a convenient and effective way to meet their dietary needs. Medical conditions can also necessitate dietary changes that include the consumption of pork. For example, some individuals might suffer from allergies or intolerances to other common protein sources, such as beef, chicken, or fish. In such cases, pork might be one of the few viable options to ensure adequate protein intake. Additionally, specific health conditions like anemia or chronic fatigue syndrome which require higher levels of certain nutrients found in pork, might lead some Muslims to prioritize their health needs over dietary restrictions. Personal health goals and preferences also play a significant role in dietary choices. The global trend towards various diet regimes, such as the ketogenic diet, paleo diet, or even general high-protein diets, often includes pork as a staple food. Muslims who adopt these diets for weight management, muscle building, or overall health improvements might find themselves incorporating pork into their meals. For some, the perceived health benefits of these diets might outweigh the religious prohibitions against pork consumption. Another factor is the influence of fitness and bodybuilding culture, which often promotes the consumption of lean meats like pork tenderloin as part of a high-protein diet essential for muscle growth and recovery. For Muslim athletes or fitness enthusiasts, aligning their diet with their fitness goals can sometimes lead to the inclusion of pork, especially if they believe it enhances their physical performance and overall well-being. Moreover, the accessibility and affordability of pork compared to halal-certified meats can influence dietary decisions. In many non-Muslim majority countries, pork is more readily available and often cheaper than other meats. For Muslims living in these areas, the economic benefits and convenience of purchasing pork can be a compelling reason, especially if they are on a tight budget or have limited access to halal food options. The role of dietary preferences and health cannot be fully understood without considering the broader context of individual agency and choice. While religious teachings provide guidelines, the ultimate decision on what to consume lies with the individual. Personal beliefs, lifestyle choices, and practical considerations all intersect to shape dietary habits. For some Muslims, maintaining health and well-being might be seen as a form of fulfilling their religious duties, even if it means occasionally consuming pork. In conclusion, health and dietary preferences are significant factors that can lead some Muslims to eat pork. These decisions are often influenced by a combination of nutritional needs, medical conditions, personal health goals, accessibility, and economic factors. Understanding these motivations requires a nuanced perspective that acknowledges the diverse and dynamic nature of individual choices within the broader framework of religious teachings. Reflecting on the diverse factors that influence the dietary choices of Muslims, it becomes clear that the consumption of pork among some Muslims is a complex and multifaceted issue. The prohibition of pork in Islam is deeply rooted in religious teachings and has been a significant aspect of Muslim identity for centuries. However, the realities of modern life, including cultural interactions, personal beliefs, socioeconomic conditions, and health considerations, have led to a more varied practice among Muslims. The diversity within the Muslim community plays a crucial role in shaping individual dietary practices. Muslims live in different cultural and social environments, each with its own set of challenges and influences. This diversity is reflected in the range of interpretations and practices related to dietary laws. Some Muslims adhere strictly to traditional dietary restrictions, while others adopt a more flexible approach based on their personal circumstances and beliefs. Cultural and regional influences highlight the importance of context in understanding why some Muslims might consume pork. Historical interactions between Muslim and non-Muslim communities, cultural assimilation, and the impact of living in non-Muslim majority countries all contribute to the diversity of dietary practices. These factors underscore the need to consider the broader social and cultural dynamics that shape individual choices. Religious flexibility and modern interpretations also play a significant role. The evolving landscape of Islamic scholarship and the growing acceptance of contextual and modernist approaches to religious texts have opened up new perspectives on dietary laws. While traditional interpretations continue to hold significant influence, the increasing recognition of individual circumstances and the principles of necessity and well-being provide a basis for more flexible practices. Personal choices and beliefs further illustrate the complexity of this issue. Individual interpretations of religious teachings, influenced by personal experiences, education, and exposure to different cultures, can lead to diverse dietary practices. Stories of Muslims who choose to eat pork often reflect a combination of practical considerations, personal health needs, and individual agency. Socioeconomic factors add another layer of complexity. Economic pressures, limited access to halal food, and the need for affordable nutrition can lead to dietary compromises. For many Muslims, ensuring their families have enough to eat may take precedence over strict adherence to dietary laws, particularly in challenging economic conditions. Health and dietary preferences highlight the role of individual health needs and goals in shaping dietary practices. Nutritional requirements, medical conditions, and personal health priorities can influence the decision to include pork in the diet. This aspect emphasizes the importance of understanding dietary choices within the context of individual well-being. In conclusion, the reasons why some Muslims still eat pork are multifaceted and deeply rooted in the complexities of modern life. This issue reflects the diverse experiences and perspectives within the Muslim community and underscores the importance of considering various factors when discussing religious practices and beliefs. By exploring these aspects, we gain a deeper appreciation for the dynamic interplay between faith, culture, and individual choices in shaping dietary practices. Understanding this complexity is crucial for fostering empathy and respect for the diverse ways in which Muslims navigate their faith and dietary preferences in different contexts.